Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Eric, the Investigative Millennial, and today we are doing a video response to an atheist who goes by the name of Kristi Burke. Now, I have already done two very short video responses to certain things she said on TikTok, but this time we're going to be dealing with one of her YouTube videos that's a bit longer, called 6 Times That Jesus Wasn't All Love and Peace. So, because again, it seems like a lot of you guys like a bit shorter videos, I'm going to divide this up into 2 parts, and although there are 6 points that she goes over, I am going to not do them in chronological order because 3 of them have a very common theme, which seems to be that Jesus is anti-family, trying to divide families, and she even accuses Jesus of having cult-like behavior and various things like that. So I'm going to focus on her 2nd point, 4th point, and 5th point, just to make this video a bit more focused, and part 2 will come out soon. So let's hear what she has to say.
Matthew 10, starting in verse 34. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. To Jesus and his followers, it really seemed like this was more of a battle, a spiritual and earthly battle. You would think that the message of the creator of the universe come to earth to bring it would find a way to bring people together. At the end of it, he's saying whoever finds their life will lose it. Whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. That's a dangerous message. He is encouraging people to become martyrs for him. That is cult leader behavior if I've ever seen it.
So in order to understand what Jesus is saying, we have to read chapter 10. And I'm going to start with verse 5, but here is the relevant portions that address Kristi's point. It says, These 12 Jesus sent out, instructing them, Go nowhere among the Gentiles and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and proclaim as you go, saying, The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse lepers, cast out demons. You received without paying, give without pay. Acquire no gold or silver or copper for your belts, no bag for your journey, or 2 tunics, or sandals, or a staff, for the laborer deserves his food. And whatever town or village you enter, find out who is worthy in it, and stay there until you depart. As you enter the house, greet it. And if the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it, but if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. And if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet when you leave that house or town. Truly I say to you, it will be more bearable on the day of judgment for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah than for that town. Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of men, for they will deliver you over to courts and flog you in their synagogues, and you will be dragged before governors and kings for my sake, to bear witness before them and the Gentiles. When they deliver you over, do not be anxious how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you in that hour. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will deliver brother over to death, and the child his father, and the children will rise against their parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake. This is not talking about Jesus encouraging people to become murderers or to be locked in this dead-even battle where people are attacking each other or in any way doing it. No, he's giving an honest, point-blank truth of what these people are getting into. Now again, I know that Kristi also has, her main point is that she basically thinks, you'd think that, well, God would come with a message that unites people. Well, the truth is, you could have a message of unity, but if people don't want it, or don't want to unite with certain people groups who they deem to be less valuable than them because of sin or social status or class, because Jesus denied that social and class distinctions, which were the basis for honor and shame in an honor-shame culture, he denied that those were important. If people don't want those values, they can understand the message clearly and they won't like it. So the truth is that he did promote the idea of loving your enemies, forgiving your enemies. He lived it himself. And yet, again, despite this, people didn't want that. They didn't want to follow those teachings, and Jesus knew for a fact that they weren't. Moving on, let's move to her next verse, which is in Luke.
Luke 14:26. Whoever does not come to me and hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Now this pairs right along with the other one, Matthew 10:34 through 38. And when I bring this verse up, a lot of people like to kind of bite back and say this is clearly hyperbole. Jesus was just being extreme. He was just kind of speaking in an extreme way. He was saying, I don't know that that's what was trying to be conveyed here.
So she does admit the possibility of hyperbole, and rightly so, because of the fact that many Jewish rabbis would employ those techniques for teaching purposes. But she says that she doesn't really buy it because of the fact that, he basically in Matthew 10 seemed to say otherwise, that he does want actual hatred. But again, her rejection of the hyperbole at least seems to, in large part, be based on her misguided interpretation of Matthew 10. And also, I have done another video on the biblical concept of hatred. It's not really the same as our modern concept. Jesus did not apply this rule universally. In fact, that was more of the exception rather than the rule. If you look at, for example, Jesus' feeding of the 5,000, he fed 5,000 men and their families. And then he did it again with another group of 4,000 and their families. And you can see that, he sent the families home together. On both occasions, in the feeding of the 5,000 and the feeding of the 4,000. In fact, the vast majority of healings and miracles that were done when somebody said, hey, my daughter has this, hey, my son is suffering with this, he didn't demand that now, okay, you guys have to follow me now and just abandon everybody. That's not usually how it worked. In fact, the demon-possessed man, and in the Gospel of Luke, he even said, he literally, after Jesus healed him of the demon, he said, look, I'll follow you wherever you go. He basically volunteered to go with him to do this, but instead Jesus said, no. Instead, you go home, just tell everybody what I did for you. And they were amazed. So not only did he get to keep his family, Jesus honestly refused him when he actually wanted to go with him. This idea that family unity is intrinsically against the gospel is just false. And in 1 Corinthians 7, in the case of Paul, he literally said, if an unbelieving husband or an unbelieving wife is willing to live with a Christian, they should not divorce them. So it's not about, oh, well, I just want families to be torn apart because of this. If your family is going to kill you, then yes, I do want you to choose me. But again, the family, if they were not hostile towards them, he had no desire to cut off familial relations in any sort of permanent fashion.
Another disciple said to him, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. But Jesus told him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. We kind of see this repetitive theme of leave your family behind and follow me. And any person in modern times that is walking around telling people that the world is ending and that he is God or is the Son of God or is divine in some way, and everybody needs to leave home, sell everything they have, and follow him into wherever he's going. I don't think any of us would really take him seriously, especially not the Christians.
So again, this verse is said to a specific person, and the thing is, we really don't know much about this individual. However, what we do know is the fact that back then, if this guy went back to bury his father, and she does, to her credit, admit that this can either be taking care of him for years, it can be just recently about to die, just died there. She does admit some flexibility in that, but she still objects to the general principle that Jesus doesn't seem to care about this guy's grief. But you have to keep in mind something very crucial. Number one, these people didn't have cell phones. So it's not like they could text and meet up at a place. Number two, also, Jesus moved around a lot. So it's not like he was the easiest person to find. The other thing is that if this had taken like maybe a year or so until his father died and settled everything, again, the logistics of finding Jesus would not be a cakewalk, and given the fact that he's only here for 3.5 years in his ministry, it's not really practical for somebody to take a commitment like that and simultaneously fulfill and do what Jesus needed them to do. But also, you have to consider that there were many disciples he had that didn't travel with him everywhere. Many believers. In fact, Lazarus' sister said when he came there, Jesus, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died, but I know even now that you can still ask for this to happen. So she had faith he could even raise Lazarus from the dead, and he did. But Jesus had plenty of disciples and friends who didn't travel with him. But with the specific calling of an apostle to, go out, heal the sick, cast out demons, that was something that was needed, very readily. And he can't afford to wait on that. Now, it doesn't mean that this disciple, because notice the Bible still calls him a disciple, and it doesn't say after he refused this he lost his discipleship or he was no longer part of the group or anything. No, but again, this is most likely referring to the specific calling that apostles have, and it's for healing the sick and performing miracles, raising the dead, and even casting out demons. So, yeah, it's not a nefarious or selfish thing that Jesus is recruiting people for in a typical cult fashion. So those are the first 3 points we're going to address. Later in the next video, I'm going to address the other points Kristi made. So see you there.